You're listening to The Q Switch with your host, Spence.
Welcome one and all to the Q Switch Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Spence, and the mission of this show is to tackle subjects currently impacting ophthalmology and pull in leading eye care professionals and industry players to discuss their unique perspectives. So let's jump right in. Today, we welcome Cindy Wong, who is the Vice President of Marketing and Business Development for IQ Laser Vision, to discuss the growing pains of an ophthalmic practice. Cindy, thanks for hanging out with the Q Switch and making time for us today. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Chino Hills, California. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
Not a problem at all. Welcome. I'm actually very familiar with your practice, believe it or not. I know Dr. Robert Lin. He is absolutely amazing. I used to be with a company called ArcScan, if you're familiar.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah. So I was with ArcScan, and so we had the opportunity to work with Dr. Lin when I was with them. I think we did a speaking event in, where was it? It was in, I think, Arizona somewhere, Phoenix or something. But yeah, so I got to spend actual time with him. Great guy, great. Excellent surgeon, great business guy, just a great human being. Hopefully, when I'm in LA at the end of the month for ASCRS, I can take some time to pop in and maybe catch up.
That'd be awesome. Have you been to our main office?
The one in City of Industry?
Yes. That
thing is a palace. At the time, you guys had just finished that location,
right.
And I think he moved on, but he was I forgot his name. He was a technician. He was all things to everybody. He was like a master at the ArcScan. Forgot his name. He moved on to a different company or a different opportunity. What was his name?
Kevin?
Kevin, it was Kevin.
Yes, Kevin is awesome.
Kevin is the man. Yeah, yes. So I'm sure you guys missed him. He was,
totally.
He was an absolute ArcScan rock star. So yeah, it is great meeting you and having you on the show. So let's start by having you kind of share the origin story, which I already know, but for our listeners and viewers, of IQ Laser Vision, and maybe include the light bulb moment that put you on the path where you are today as the VP of Marketing and Business Development.
Yes, thank you, David. So IQ Laser Vision started in 1999 with Dr. Lin and probably 2 team members who everybody kind of did everything. From that point, they started growing. I came on board in 2009, just kind of really went with the mission of helping the patients. We know we're changing lives, so super exciting to see. I work mostly remote now, but back then I was in the office. Definitely saw a lot of really amazing patient stories. Like sometimes patients cry because it just changed their life so much. So loved being part of that and just kind of work my way up on the different positions, doing whatever I can to help the patients and then help the practice too. So that's kind of how I got to this position with the marketing and the business development. For me, every single part of the team is important, but of course you got to get them in the door, and then you have to make sure they're taken care of, and then surgery, and then post-surgery, all that stuff. But yeah, it's been a wonderful ride.
Well, you joined the practice 10 years after it started.
Yes.
So from 2009 to now 2025, and again, this is more so for the viewers since you are, because again, I'm familiar with your practice, there's been a vast expansion of IQ Laser Vision throughout California and also in Texas.
Right.
So what has that experience been like for you in terms of just the growth? I mean, because the subject that we're talking about today has a lot to do with the growing pains of ophthalmic practices, and having been through it through your time with IQ Laser, I'm sure you've run into your, pitfalls and unforeseen circumstances that you guys had to navigate. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, David, definitely super exciting. And also we've run into some roadblocks. So what we've learned is, who's our ideal patient avatar, right? Where do they hang out physically? What apps are they on digitally and stuff like that? That's been really instrumental with our growth. But I want to back up one layer. The most important thing is really the patient experience, because word of mouth referral, no matter any day and age, will always be the strongest. So we could do all the billboards, all the marketing, digital ads. However, if the patient doesn't have a good experience, when their friend asks them, they're like, don't go there. I'd pick somewhere else to get this life-changing procedure. So that's really helped us. So one of the pitfalls that we ran into was we actually moved locations thinking it would be like a better office, more upgraded. But it turns out that our patient base didn't want to drive the extra 15 minutes to the new location. So we moved back, and then they started coming in again. So that was something we learned along the way, is kind of meet them where it's convenient for them. Our brand is strong, but we still want to make it super convenient. And sometimes a different neighborhood will make it all the difference if they're coming or if they're not coming.
Of course. Well, thanks for that. Well, starting a practice from scratch or expanding through acquisition always comes with a cost of education. And no matter how much you plan or prepare, as you've mentioned, there are unforeseen challenges, obstacles, and complications unique to that growth. And we're here to talk about them. Hopefully you can continue to chime in and share your thoughts and experience. So Cindy, the biggest obstacle for every practice to overcome is typically the finance and investment piece of it. What are some of the big financial hurdles that ophthalmic practices face when trying to scale?
So some of the big financial hurdles really is looking at, what in terms of the initial investment, right? Do you have the lasers that you need there? If you don't have the lasers that you need there, then what would that look like? Could you potentially, in terms of which practice you are acquiring, does it make sense to kind of share a laser and things like that? So for us, the model that we've done is in some cases, we are using the same laser, but we have more satellite offices feeding into that one surgery site. So it helps with the investment cost. Otherwise, if you are acquiring a new laser for every location, that's really kind of hard to get a good ROI on, especially in the beginning when you're building up the practice. Because if you're acquiring it, likely you are putting more marketing spend, you're kind of rebranding everything. So the initial costs are really steep. But in this case, it's less so because now you're more doing like the cosmetic investment versus like the equipment. That's kind of what we've done. We have like satellite offices that we have acquired or partnered with, and then we send them to our surgery suite.
Okay, so that you don't have that big capital expenditure and you just feed more patients to
Yes.
utilize in that one location that may be central to all these smaller satellites and sister offices.
Yes, yes. And then once,
Okay.
we get more revenue in the door, then we might consider, okay, this would be a good location now, perhaps to turn into another surgery site. Then we will
Okay.
invest more equipment there. But that way, it's kind of staggering your investment and it's not all up front. You could kind of get more revenue in, invest more back in, and then kind of keep the cycle rolling.
Yeah, so you evolve over time and you don't overcommit and stretch yourselves thin at the same time, really building up that patient base and the flow of patient traffic to that one center, again, generating that revenue to afford that expansion, sounds like.
Right.
Okay, cool. So what other alternative funding options exist for ophthalmic practices looking to scale without taking on too much risk, since we're talking kind of in that same area?
Right. So sometimes we may not acquire a location. We actually partner with, let's say, OD's office. It does expand our footprint and it's a mutually beneficial relationship because now we have all of our consultations and follow-ups, pre-ops potentially at the satellite office to make it really easy for the patient that lives in that area. And then just the surgery they have in our location. So it really works out because the co-managing doctor, they are able to say, hey, we do offer like LASIK services. And then on our end, when we are on our website and different directory sites, we can pull from a better area too.
Yeah, that co-management, I mean, I've been in ophthalmology since 2011, and there were only a few doctors that, had a really like substantial, like healthy OD network.
Right.
Now it's
Right.
it's got to be part of your business plan and expansion plan, whether you're just one practice or a network of practices in order to keep that patient flow going to support it all. And I know that Dr. Lin has done an amazing job establishing a great reputation and having a good partnership with a vast number of ODs in Southern California, Northern California. Can't speak to Texas, but I can't imagine it wouldn't be it wouldn't be the same.
Thank you, David. Yes, and I do want to add something here because sometimes you could do a lot of marketing, but then if the potential patient goes to their OD and they're like, oh, I would never do like LASIK, then you're kind of dead in the water there. So it's really important to have a really great relationship and share the great information because sometimes even their information is a little outdated in terms of refractive surgery. So having those like CEs and getting to know, okay, well, I don't want to send my patient to someone I don't really trust. Like, what are we going to do with them? At IQ Laser Vision, we wouldn't proceed with the procedure unless we truly think it benefits. And I'm sure that's with a lot of surgeons too. So we want to let them know that hey, we're not going to do surgery if your patient doesn't need it or would not benefit from it. So yeah, that's how we've been able to keep that segment of our base strong.
Good. And of course, saving money along the way, being more efficient. And sometimes it's better to invest in relationship than actual capital and some other things, those hard assets, because I think in the long run, it's going to serve you and not just your patient, but also that partnership with you and the ODs.
Right.
So in my experience, the most successful practices have the best staff from top to bottom. How difficult is it to recruit and retain skilled ophthalmologists? Because I know you guys have several beyond what, just starting with Dr. Lin, I think you have 4 or 5 now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It is difficult, but I 100% agree with you. Without the team, there would be no IQ laser vision. Honestly, we could do
Yeah.
whatever we want on the front end, but it's really that care. Everyone's on the same mission. You're here to serve the patient, help them get this life-changing procedure in the smoothest, like most mind-blowing way possible. So
Hmm.
everybody's aligned to that. And we found that, let's say we hire someone who isn't aligned, they usually kind of self-select, like, okay, this is a little much for me, but I would say for the most part, everybody really loves it because you know you're making a difference in the patient's lives. You're not just kind of like, you know, going through the motions. So it's very tough to keep them. I think that is the motivation, that they know they're making such a big impact.
Well, number one, you're 100% correct. And I've been to your practice, as I mentioned before, and I've seen that state of industry operation up and running. And you could just feel and sense. I look for it. Say, hey, how does this place operate? Who am I, partnering with? And the team and the staff are a reflection of the leadership, doctor, administrators, and it seemed like everybody really took ownership. And I mentioned Kevin earlier. He's just one representation of an employee, a staff member at a practice that really takes ownership. He's like-minded with the surgeon. Every patient belongs to them. And with that shared investment and a good culture, I think also the tone set by the doctor and the administrators, people stay. I know that you've been with IQ Laser for 15 years, something like that, if not
Yes,
more.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
And Ann Sag's been there since the beginning.
Oh, yeah,
She's still
it's
around?
like she's like 20 something years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Ann
So
Sang,
she was
Kevin,
born and then she started working at IQ. Just
and
kidding.
then Kevin was there for I think over a decade.
Yes, yes.
So again, that just speaks to Dr. Lynn's leadership, folks like yourself in administrative roles that just create a great culture and the tone, tenor, and culture that you set, and then really welcomes patients and provide our top level care from diagnostics to surgical to post-operative care. And I think that extends out to your OD network. So from top to bottom, end to end, I think that that's a theme and tone that's been set. And I think operations like yours are the most successful. How you retain those folks, again, just really investing in the things we just talked about. So, thanks for sharing that. And I don't doubt you guys are going to have success moving forward as well.
Thank you so much, David. Really appreciate it.
So it's been said that you are as only as good as your tools allow you to be. How can outdated equipment slow down practice growth? And what's the best way to upgrade it efficiently?
One of the things that we've done, David, is really make it more electronic. So we have some diagnostic machines that our surgeons and our optometrists love, but they like don't connect to the internet. Not all of them, but some of them are that old, but they just love them, love them. So we've tried to kind of see if there's newer versions available that do similar things. That's been one upgrade. Another upgrade is just like, hey, let's at least not print these things out. Let's try to like get it saved onto our EMR directly. So those
Sure.
are some of the strategies because we, believe it or not, their systems are so old. Some of them like won't even take a USB, so we have to print it. So now we're like, okay, let's at least like do a screenshot and save it into the EMR versus like printing and scanning because that all takes a long time. So that's how we've been kind of moving forward.
Yeah, and I know that Dr. Lin, from my experience a couple years ago, he's very technology forward. He's one of the first adopters of the ARC scan at the time, which is
100%.
technology for its time. Everything in that office is very technology forward, which I think adds efficiency. I think patients certainly, when they walk in, realize that whatever I'm paying for my eyes is totally worth it. And the patient experience, as you mentioned earlier, all those things tie into it. And but not everyone is a Dr. Lin, I will tell you. I've been around from this entire country to different practices, and it's much better to follow Dr. Robert Lin's lead. Hopefully, there are more they'll be doing it moving forward. If not, they'll be left behind.
100%, David, especially with the ARC scan, we really leaned in with that technology because we saw the results that it provided. So we were looking at, okay, what happens when we use it or we don't? We still get good results, but with this one, we're really sure we have our protocol. All of our, let's say, EVO ICL patients, they all get screened for that. So it's been really, really helpful. And patients are very interested too. Like, oh, I've never seen a machine like this. So we tell them, oh yeah, this is really cutting edge, just like an ultrasound for your eye. So yeah, Dr. Lin loves technology when he can really show like how it impacts the end result for the patient.
Yeah, so how do you balance the need for cutting edge technology like Dr. Lin likes to invest in, but also balance the budget constraints that a lot of face? Again, we have to cut out Dr. Lin because I think he's a different animal. The standard ophthalmologist, again, what are some of the things that will allow them to invest in technology, but also respect, the budgets that they can access?
That is a great question. Every practice does have their budget. What we typically look at is what kind of impact would this make? Is
Okay.
this something that like would be nice? Or hey, we could really up level the results for this. And how many patients would it take to kind of, well, that's the calculation that I would do at least. How many more patients would we need in order to kind of make this investment like break even? And so we kind of look at that and how long would that take? And most of the time, it's of course more worth it to invest, David, in like the more popular offices. So we wouldn't
Sure.
say get the same piece of equipment everywhere. But again, if this is a surgery site, that would be the first place to put that piece of equipment and then kind of go from there. Again, once you make more, then you can kind of spend more on where you need it. But that's really what we're looking at is it worth it? How long would it take to kind of recover this? And does it really make a big difference or just it would be nice?
Sure. It sounds like it's very strategic, very intentional, and you weigh the impact, as you mentioned, and of course the outcomes always.
Right.
A question a little bit closer home for you, Cindy. What marketing strategies can smaller or independent practices use to stand out in a crowded market?
That's a great question, David. For sure, I would lean in into your patients. So one, blow your patients away with the patient experience. Then make
Okay.
it super easy for them to share. Take pictures like throughout the process and especially like on post-op when they're really, really excited. One of the items that we're trying to capture right now as well is like the aha moment because a lot of patients come up from the bed and that's when I've seen patients cry like I can't believe I can see right now. This is just like amazing. So really sharing that, right? Honestly, your team is already there. If you can maximize that, that kind of doesn't cost you anything. Like post it on your website, post it testimonials, post it on Yelp, have them check in on places, leave reviews. I would really, really lean in on that because patient referrals always the strongest. So if you can show your online presence, and of course, if they post on their let's say on their social media, then their tribe sees it too. So there's a bunch of different benefits. And one more thing, even if your patient tells someone, that person's still going to go check you guys out online, even though their friend told them.
Yeah.
So the more social proofing that's on there, the better. And that's kind of all, let's say, the free portion. In terms of the paid portion, I would absolutely go after like Google ads. They're higher cost per lead, but they're also the patients that are most bottom of funnel, right? They're kind of looking for your services already. Meta also works out sometimes, but it kind of depends on your team, to be honest, because these meta leads, they will take a lot longer to nurture potentially because with the meta ad, you're kind of stopping them, right? They weren't looking for you. They had no intent, but you had such a cool ad. They stopped and they like gave you the information. So with those ones, the team needs to be prepared to work them. They're
Sure.
not as like quick to, okay, let's just book it. They'll be like, well, I just wanted to see how much is it, or like maybe how many patients have you done and things like that.
I do like the being able to capture that aha moment. I mean, as an industry person, I'm never there to see that. I take that back. I've been there like maybe twice where a patient is
Right.
responding for the first time to their new vision that's been restored or improved. And like you said, they cry. And it's an
Right.
emotional moment.
Right.
It's capturing that emotion in that moment that when they share it on whatever social platform that really resonates because it now taps into somebody's like sense of
Right.
like, oh my God, that really, look at that woman crying.
Yes.
And there's some doctors who actually do that. I know a couple who actually, Dr. Robert Lynn knows one of them, Dr. Mueller in Texas. And he posts from time to time a patient's like response in that aha moment when they can just really see better for the first time after surgery. And it is truly like pulls at your heartstrings. And if other people who have that same need,
Right.
like, you know what, I want to feel like that patient after my surgery when my cataracts are gone and they've, implanted this super great lens and all this. So yeah, I think that's a really great pearl. Thanks for sharing that.
My pleasure.
So along those same lines, how does competition from corporate healthcare groups and hospital systems affect independent ophthalmic practices? And that's, controversial in a lot of ways because PE is taking over larger hospital groups, but there is a contingency of doctors who want to stay independent and do their own thing. So how does that competition piece really, how do those smaller independents compete with some of those larger hospital systems and PE groups?
Wow. Yeah. This is definitely, I think every practice kind of comes up against this, right? Once one of the PE groups, or let's say one of the, it's almost like Groupon price, right? Will come into your arena, then it becomes a little bit harder. The way
Sure.
that we've kind of combated it, David, is really kind of focusing on the brand and the longevity of IQ, you know what you will get with us. And it's all customized care. So there's no kind of cookie cutter. We have a lot of different procedures, and our surgeons also have a lot of experience. So we offer a free consultation. We tell them to come in, and then we customize the treatment plan for them. And sometimes I'll say, oh, well, I can go to this person for $1. No, sorry, that's too extreme. Let's just say like I saw an ad for it's only like $299 per eye. So we'll be upfront with them. I know the ad says that, but to be honest, do you really believe that it's $299 per eye? And also, it is your eyes, right? Do you want to choose the best option for your eyes, or do you want to choose the cheapest option? Of course, most patients will say, okay, I want to choose the best option. And then, so we kind of proceed from there. If they say, well, still, I don't know why it's so much more expensive, let's say, then we'll say, our surgeons have a lot of experience. So for us, we include like the drops, the post-op care, pre-op care. It's what you see after your consultation, that's everything that's included. Normally, with these ads, as you probably guessed, it's a little bit of a bait and switch. Most patients do not qualify for this. And you probably won't too. You're welcome to go check it, but you probably won't as well. But with us, here's like kind of our happy patient testimonials, and you see the office, you've seen the team, like this is what you can expect and the quality that you will get.
And you guys have always, and again, really stems from Dr. Robert Lin and his approach to practice and how he cares for patients. What are some of the common mistakes that practices make when scaling that negatively impact the patient experience that they may be missing that you guys have gotten right?
That sometimes you are providing customized care, but you're actually not saying it. So for a patient, they might be feeling like it's so efficient for some, but some might feel, David, like, okay, I'm like a cattle being herded from place to place. So one thing is to really explain it. Like, okay, so for this step, you're going to be here, and then this step, you're going to here. And for, let's say, our model, where some of it's satellite offices, we want to be really clear. Everything besides the surgery will happen at this office, right? Really, the communication is key, because sometimes when you grow and you're fast, patients get the feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm just like a number to them, and you're not, right? So we really want to like address them by name. When you are bringing them back, like walk up to them and invite them to the back versus like, hey, David, I'm looking for David, and stuff like that, because that kind of, even though it may seem similar to some, the feeling for the patient is different. It's like, oh, wow, like they went to like escort me over there versus like, David, like you need to go through the assembly line like right now kind of thing. So that's one big thing when you're scaling. You're going to get faster and more efficient, but just still letting the patient feel that care.
Yeah, and I'm glad you shared that, because again, I've been doing this a long time. I've been in and out of offices, and now the patient experience, the patient journey is really at the center of every practice, because that's how
100%, yes.
And you miss that, and you could have an awesome surgery, no hiccups in terms of like how they got through the system, but how they felt about their experience makes all the difference in the world. I mean, you could have a flawless diagnose them exactly what their issue is, take them to surgery, awesome surgery, great lens, everything was awesome post-op, and next thing you know, instead of like they were to rate you, say, they didn't feel as though that they really had a great experience, and you get a 4 instead of a 5, or a 3 instead of a 5, because they didn't feel it. So the emotional impact matters to these patients. It really has everything taken over and is at the center of every successful practice like yours.
Thank you, David. That was so well said. 100%. I think the feeling of it, like, did they feel taken care of? That's going to make the difference between if they refer more patients to you or they don't, and what they write in their reviews. 100%.
Yeah, I can't remember what the quote is, but it says they won't remember what you said or what they saw or what they heard, but they remember how you made them feel.
Right.
And I think, again, I'm not sure what the quote is, but it's something to that effect.
Right.
Yes. How you emotionally strike somebody, hit them in the heart, is what's going to stick with them. Much like the aha moment. Those things translate, and they're timeless. If you showed that same person in their aha moment 5 years from now, it's going to have the same impact then as it does today.
Right.
Hey, so final question for you, Cindy. What's the best piece of advice you have for ophthalmologists looking to grow their practice? Just the one thing that if you could drop one big, huge pearl and say, start with this, what would it be?
Can it be a two-part, but it's related?
We'll break it into 2 parts.
Okay, break it into 2 parts. One is really measure everything, because sometimes, and especially I think everybody does it as humans, right? You're like, I feel like this campaign works, or I feel like this person closes really well. But do they?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you really need to measure it because sometimes our feelings are off. So from there, you can really see which levers to push on. So for example, let's say this, you have an amazing person who schedules all of the consults into surgeries, but they only have like 3 consultations a day. Now, what's it going to take to get them more consultations a day so they can schedule more surgeries, right? And then how
Right.
many leads will you need? And then factor in like the no-show rate and all that kind of stuff. But if you
Mm-hmm.
don't measure it, you'll never know. You might be spending even more marketing dollars, but then let's say the person can't convert. You actually need to work on that end, or vice
Mm-hmm.
versa. The person's, or let's say everyone's converting, but then for some reason the pre-op takes 2 months and the person just falls off, right? So it's
Sure.
really good to just measure everything. And that would be my pearl. Measure before you act, or else you might be kind of spending your time and your resources on something that's really not where the biggest improvement could be.
Sure. So data-driven decisions,
Yes,
essentially.
thank you.
Okay. Is that the 2 part? Was there another part to that, or is that? You said
It
there
was
was 2
going
parts
to
to
go
it.
back to like really testing your online presence and like testing
Okay.
all the forms work, making sure your patient experience is like top notch. So sorry, that might be
Okay.
3. That it's for me it's all in one because those are it all feeds into each other.
It all works together.
So
Sure.
measure it, make sure it works well, and then just if you were the patient, you'd be impressed.
So, Cindy, that was awesome. I got to say, your insights were spot on, and you dropped a lot of pearls for the folks to pick up. So, thanks for coming to the show and sharing your wisdom on the Q Switch Conversations podcast. I wish you and your team in Southern California the absolute best. They are truly fortunate to have you. Much success to you, Dr. Lin, and tell Ann I said what's up. Before I do sign off, if there are any of our listeners that wanted to connect with you to go deeper in some of what you had to say on the subject, where can they find you?
Yes, please feel free to email me. That's cwong at iqlaservision.com. Once again, CWONG at iqlaservision.com. And thank you so much, David, for inviting me. It's been super fun, and I really, really enjoyed it. So thank you so much.
Appreciate you having you on. So we'd like to thank the Riverside FM and Passionate Media for making this show possible. That's a wrap for this episode of the Q Switch Conversations podcast. Until next time, this is Spence, and I am out.
You're listening to The Q Switch with your host, Spence.